Welcome to Zbooks Successful Authors Podcast. And with me today, I have an author who hit #1 in multiple categories on Amazon with his debut novel. The novel is called Psalm, and the author is Toby Dow. Welcome, Toby.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, hey, debut novel, multiple #1s. I guess tell us about your book first.
Yeah, first of all, the book's it's a murder mystery thriller, suspense,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of religious aspects involved, hence the title Psalm. The book was first come about years ago. I just had the story in the back of my head, and I was going to actually write it as a movie script. And then someone said, if it's that good a story, you got to do it as a book first and see where it takes you. So about 10, 11 years ago, I started writing it as a book and just started out slowly and just adapted. And here we are now. It's got launched a couple of weeks ago, and the success has been pretty overwhelming, actually.
Awesome. Yeah, you talked about movie scripts. So I'm jumping ahead because I want to really dig deep into that. But so first of all, it's a murder mystery, and I started reading it, and so I better not. I don't want to give anything away. It starts out really good, and yeah, pretty cool. So tell us a little bit more about the premise of the book.
Well, the book is. I don't want to give too much away. I'm quite used to it. It's one of those
Okay, tell us about the hero.
Well, the hero is a guy called Harrison Carter, who comes from a very wealthy family, well-established social family, lives in California, and his whole family have always wanted him to be, a politician or, like his father, a medical practitioner. He's a surgeon at Cedar Sinai. He's worked on some of the biggest people in the country, biggest names in the country, operational-wise, and that's the whole family have always done that. They've always gone down that path, and it's just expected of him to follow the same path, to go down that path. But he's a little bit different. His mum doesn't come from that type of social background. She wasn't as well off, just from a normal working class family, so he sort of got her side, her genes, and he, as smart as he is and as intelligent as he is, that sort of isn't him. The political side or the medical side isn't really him, even though he can do it quite easily. And so he sort of follows his aspirations and moves into the field of policing with the FBI. The FBI noticed just how good this kid is. They can just sense he's sort of like a Clarice Starling sort of type character. Like he's above the rest of them in his field, and they pull him into this FBI sort of unit that tracking the serial killers or the people around the country. And he gets sent on this journey to a couple of murders that they believe have been created by the same person, but it's been laid low at the moment. He's been investigating it, and he comes to the realization that it is the same person, and that America at this moment have a serial killer in their midst. And that's where the story sort of picks up straight after. It does start straight away. I wanted to sort of punch in the face type start, so it does start with a murder straight away, gruesome, and because I wanted to capture the reader's attention straight away instead of just leading slowly into it. It was just like bang, straight from the start, and then it sort of plateaus out into what the story's about and with each of them. But Harrison, he's set the task of trying to find, even though he's younger in the field and the division of the department where he works, that they see the potential in him. So he's the one that's left to track down the killer.
Cool. Mitch Harrison. So are you working on the next book?
Yeah, I've just started piecing it together. I've always been fascinated with the JFK story. It's something, even being an Australian, it's something that's always fascinated me. Everyone has their views, I suppose you could say, on what took place that day in Dallas, and there's a little bit of a JFK storyline within Psalm. So I was going to try and sort of follow that on, only because of the fascination I have, with the JFK story. So the next one, I suppose I could tell you, it's called Finding Zapruder. There's always the story about. There's always the story about certain parts of the Zapruder film
Mm-hmm.
have always been removed. And it's always that mystery about it, that does the public really see all the frames of the Zapruder film? And so I've been researching that at the moment, as about to start planning the next book and the storyline that will go with the Zapruder film. But it's basically about a college kid who finds out through hacking, however you want to call it, and realizes the CIA have held back some footage from the Zapruder film. They track him down. He runs in fear of his life, hands over the tape to like someone in a laundromat. I'm still figuring that part out. But he's like gives it to Harrison Carter at the FBI because he read about Harrison's deal with Michael Hitchens in Psalm, the killer, and so he's he really wants Harrison to sort of look after this for him. The guy obviously ends up deceased, and Harrison gets brought in, and then he starts investigating the Zapruder film as well. So it's going to be. I'm still working out exactly the ins and outs of it, but it is in the early throes of.
Yeah, you can download the Zapruder frames. Did you do that?
Yeah, I've watched over it a million times. I've seen it.
Yeah, going back and forth.
Yeah, I'm over Facebook groups. I'm on the net all the time trying to find out exactly.
Did you read the book? That big fat book. Oh man, what was it called? About the official Kennedy investigation. And,
the Warren Commission.
Yeah, I think that was it. But it was like a novel or something. No, it was nonfiction, and it had the pictures of like Kennedy's brains on the gurney when they wheeled him in. And boy, I tell you, there are some gaping holes in that whole story because the bullets they found, some of I think the magic bullet they found,
condition.
Yeah, the magic bullet that they found was like untouched. It went through 8 bones or something, and there was no scratches on it. And that, I'm from California. I go shooting. I used to go shooting, and there's no way that a bullet's gonna go through 8 bones and not have any scratches on it. And it was like somebody placed the bullet on the gurney too, so that you could find it. What do they call that in mysteries? An overwhelming evidence, a preponderance of evidence.
Yeah.
And it means that that's a setup because there's never a preponderance of evidence, Well,
that's always been my thing with JFK, even though I'm Australian, but something that's always intrigued me is that even with when Trump was just before, I think it was 2 years ago, he said he was going to release all the files of JFK, and he declassified quite a few, but not all of them.
He did.
And to me, it was like, well, if there was nothing to hide, why would you just not release them? And that's the whole story. All these arguments I watch on Facebook on all these groups. I mean, I never get involved, but I sit back and listen to about stories, and even though they the people are conspiracy theorists and blah blah, but I'm like, yeah, but if it was so simple as just one bloke killing him, why would that guy need to be killed as he's walking by an unknown person, Jack Ruby, walking down the driveway? Why would Jack Ruby need to be isolated, taken to another state? Why would the government need to classify all these files? Why would they not just allow them? So it's just been one of those things that it's intrigued me about it, that a country could possibly get away with murdering its own president. Yeah. So when I started reading about the Zapruder film and some of the theories that there isn't all the frames within the actual film of the CIA. And I think it was Time Magazine bought the film straight away of Abraham Zapruder, and there is actual frames missing, and that's when I've been trying to now work into a book. And in the book, obviously, the person finds the frames, which then can dispute the lone nut theory, and hence will be the subject of the next Harrison Carter endeavor.
Yeah, there's been a lot of books written about that, but let's get back to your book first. And did you ever live in California? Because I noticed you have a lot of the book begins in Los Angeles, and it looks like you really know what you're talking about. Or was that your co-author?
Well, yeah, I have been there. Yes, I have been there. I've been there a couple of times. I've been in New York as well, but I I knew the layout basically of California, having been there before. No, Karen was introduced because I wrote the book and I could only write it so much, and because of the difference in spelling between American and Australian sort of English and how we structure things, everything was different. I needed somebody, when I was finished the book, the lady out here that has helped me quite a bit, Lynn Santa, I was talking to her and we were like, I need it now. I suppose you would say Americanized, being the story is based in America. So, when we read a lot of American novels out here, the way you spell things is different to how we do. Not everything, but a few. And considering it was an American-based story, even though I'm Australian, I needed it Americanized. So, found a couple of authors over there. Karen was one. There was two other people. We sent them the first page only, and we asked them then to bring back, write back the first page, how they would have it in American, how they would style it. Karen was the first person to get back to us. I actually didn't read the other two people's. I just read Karen's and just saw how well she set it out, and I was like, just hire her. Let's hire her straight away. So we struck a deal with Karen, and we sent over the manuscript, and she sent it back. How long? About 8-9 months later, I just said, take your time, just do it properly, get it all done, so I didn't have to re-edit, and so that was it. I just left it in her hands for a while. Then she sent it back, and it is what you have today.
Cool. Yeah. So you said it was a script first. So did you follow the beats, like the Save the Cat template or something like that?
Yeah. No. See, very it might surprise people who read this how this book started, and I wanted to write it as a script, but that was my whole thing. But then because I just had in the back of my head, it was always more a film. Like this will be a good film. This will be a good filming story, because of all the parts I took from other sort of, I suppose you could say, films or books, like Seven, Silence of the Lambs, Sleepers, Sleepers film. So there's an aspect with the priests. So it was all those different ones. I thought, if you mix all them three together, then it would make a great film. But I don't have the expertise in screenwriting, so I was like, well, let me write as a book first, then we'll see if we can, the residual value later on as a film would come into play. So I actually, knowing how Save the Cats and Beats, all these work, I actually just wrote this from the top of my head. It's one thing I would do differently next time. Would be definitely to have a plan, better drawn out plan, have the chapters written better. It was just something I just had in my head. I just had it. And I just went with it. And I just kept writing. I didn't have. This was the next chapter. This was the next. It was just one of those things. I've had hundreds of people say to me, like, "How did you think of that? Like, how did you think of that story?" And I was like, "Well, it was just one of those things you hear people say. It just came to me, and that's exactly what it did. It just actually just came to me how it was. So I just continued with it. And when Karen came involved, obviously she got back to me and said that we should change this part for this and move that chapter to there. And it's when you got to bite your ego, even though it's this is my baby, but I knew it was best for the book, and I was like, yeah, okay, do it, just do it, and let's see how it turns out. And it worked out perfect. She did a terrific job in doing what she did. So it was weird how it happened. Probably that's why it took me a lot longer than it probably should have. Because I didn't have a plan, but because I was just in the zone with writing it, and I just had the thoughts in my head, I just kept going. I didn't stop and write down a plan, which is it's definitely something I would do next. There's like the next one. That's where I'm at now straight away. There's a Zapruder one because of the fact that I don't want to go through that again. I want to make sure it's done properly, and then if it's done properly, it will actually take less time.
Well, that's pretty cool, though. It's some people say, it's a catharsis. It's a scratch you got to itch. So if you did it like that in the zone, and that's pretty cool. And okay, going back and editing is a nightmare, but you got to do it. I mean, what was that saying? It's 10% creativity and 90% editing.
Yeah, well, that's basically what it was. I think I got to the point with the book. I'd rewritten the book probably 4 or 5 times, and I could not read it anymore. I just could not do any more with it because I'd seen it so many times, and I couldn't read. I'm looking on my computer screen now. I'd be reading it on the computer screen. I had to print it. I actually had to print it out on paper to read it because I couldn't. I couldn't see mistakes. I couldn't see any edits. I couldn't see, and so I would sit there and mark it like a teacher, mark and then send it away. Someone else would do it, and then in the end, I would get different people to edit it as well, because of the fact that I just could not pick anything up, and it was getting harder and harder. And then obviously, the more and more you edit, the less and less mistakes there is. But you think you're missing, some mistakes, but you're actually not. There's none there. But look, I think there's still a few in the book. If I was to be honest, there's probably a few still left. But I just couldn't see anymore. I just could not see it. So I ended up just going, "Oh, that's it, Paul. Let's publish it. Let's get it online." I'd had enough of it, because when you read something so often, you scan, you know what's coming up, you know what's next. You just pick up anything that's in front of you, which is so blatant. So the editing part, that's one thing I did learn about the books. The book was finished probably 5-6 years ago, but the back of house stuff, getting it edited, book covers, this and that's all the stuff that I now know that I didn't know before. So I'll be a lot moving forward with further books.
How many words is it?
When I first finished, I still remember the first day I finished. I was laying on the lounge. My wife was laying next to me. I nearly started crying. It was 123,000 words when I first finished.
Cool.
I think it's a touch over 83 or 88 now. So, a lot have been edited. As you can tell, a lot have been edited out. 20,000 words is a lot to take out. So, I was very, very descriptive when I first wrote the book. Everything was highly descriptive, very much in the realm of American Psycho type, how that was written. So it was very, very descriptive. And then Karen was like, "It's too descriptive. Let's, instead of explaining a murder that can go for 2 pages, let's bring it back to a quarter of a page." And she goes, "Trust me, you need to do that, because that's people. It'll just get to the point. You're elongating the murder." I was like, "Okay, no worries." So that all the type of things that I learned along the way. Moving forward would be better. She taught me that quite well. I owe her a lot for that.
Cool. Yeah. You kind of already answered one of my next questions. How do you figure out your plot points and your twists and your plots, and because it's a thriller, you have to have, how many twists are in your? Well, maybe we shouldn't tell them how many twists.
No. Yeah, there's in this one there's quite a few. If you've read, it gets to the end, there's one, and then when you think it's over, there's another, then there's one more. There's like 3 major ones, I suppose you could say, in this one. Yeah, 3. I'd say major ones in this, and just when you think it's over, there's another, without giving anything away. But I do all that before. I make sure. So even though I said I didn't plan this book, I knew what I was writing, though. I know it sounds weird, but I knew nearly the whole 30-something chapters in my head. I knew exactly where I was going. I know that's a lot to keep in your head, but I had it all in there, and it just I knew exactly each chapter, so I didn't. It was just one of those weird things. But with the next one, I'm still trying to figure out I know the basis of it. I know where I'm going with it. I know what Harrison's job in the book is. I know the person who finds out there's a Pruda film was a fraud, or parts of it are missing. I know what their part is. But then it's trying to turn it. There probably won't be as many twists in this one as there was in Psalm, based on storylines different, completely different. But in Psalm, I knew straight away that there had to be 2 or 3 big twists, sort of like Seven, and sort of like what's the film, Sixth Sense. You watch The Sixth Sense, and the whole way through the film,
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Bruce Willis. Yeah. But the whole way through the film, it's looking you in the face, but you don't realize it. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do with Psalm, and that's a lot of people have said the same thing.
They were both.
I never
both really good movies, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, and I said to him, well, that's what I wanted. I wanted people to sort of look back on it and go, it's been looking at me from the start. And people who end up reading it will understand that, when they've got the twist. But that's exactly how I wanted it to play out. And I've had a lot of people going, "Oh, don't tell me about it." I'm like, "I won't." But I said, "Trust me, you won't pick it." But I said, "If you do, you've done well." But you won't know until they know within the book, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want it to make it so obvious.
Are you finding it easier to write your second book?
Piecing together, I'm writing. easier. No, not really, because you know what? I know this will be the next one would be planned out. I get that, but I don't have the entire story set out in stone, if you sort of know what I mean, in my mind. Whereas in Psalm, even though I didn't plan it, I knew the story for a while. I always had it in my head, and that's why I acted on it. I was always thinking of what would make a good film, and I was taking bits of different parts of films, and like I said, the Seven, Silence, Lamp, Sleepers, all these different films that I loved, and so I was taking them in. But with this one, I don't have that. At the moment, I don't have it. I have the basis of the story, but I'm still trying to figure out the middle bits of it, like where it's going to lead. Well, and so in it, I'm sort of looking at like JFK, the Donald Pleasance, not Donald Pleasance, Donald Sutherland scene when he's talking to Kevin Costner at outside. I think it's the Capitol building on the lawn there, and he's explaining to him how this could not have happened because he was over there and in New Zealand at the time, and it's only been 6 hours, but they already knew the murder and all this type of stuff. And I sort of want a scene like that with someone explaining certain things, and that's where a lot of my reading and investigation at the moment is going, trying to find out those, piece together those parts, and then I can sit down and go, okay, this is what I'll do. This is how it's going to start. This is how it's going to end. I already know how it's going to end.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah, so the start and the finish, I've sort of got, it's where I'm leading the journey for the reader throughout the middle. That's the part that I'm working on now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, because the first 2 books I wrote were 10,000, and the second one was 11,000 words. So now I'm also working on a novel, and for over 6 months, and then after 6 months of going through it, I just want to throw the whole thing away, start over.
Yeah. Well, you get those things. You get that. I used to take time off all the time because even though I knew what I wanted within Psalm, I didn't know how to write it. I didn't know how to do it. So I would, I suppose they call it writer's block. What are you doing? For me, I would walk away from it. I would walk away from the book completely. Sometimes I'd take, hence why maybe the time frame was longer, because I would walk away and not touch the book or the story for 3 months. So if I had that block, instead of sitting down and getting frustrated by it, or starting to get anxious about I'm not finishing it, I would just go, leave it, because it'll come back. It'll come to you again. And then so I'd be at work, or I'd be with my son, or I'd be out the back, and it was always in the back of my mind, and it would just sort of like a light would go on and I'd go, that's it, that's what I've got to do. And I'd write in, I'd jot it down somewhere on a bit of paper.
Yeah.
And then that night I'd go back in and I'd start again. And that's how I always dealt with things like that. When I sort of know where to go, or if I was getting frustrated with it. My wife pushed me a lot with this. I sort of did a lot of times I'd want to just leave because it was just taking so long. And geez, you never know, keep going, you never know. So I'd keep going, but knowing where to go with it, that was the hardest bit. Or if I like it, that writer's block type mentality. I suppose if anyone watches this and they have that thing, I would say walk away from it. That would be my best thing, would be to walk away, clear your mind.
Yeah.
If you think too much, you're going over it, you're crossing over, and I would just completely leave, like not even worry about it. I'd put it aside and think, in 3 months' time, I'll come back. And within that 3 months, I'd have all fresh ideas with it, and then I would come back. So, that's
cool.
how I sort of handle the situation.
Yeah. Getting back to the Kennedy thing, did you know that, I don't know if they do this every year or if it was just a one-time deal, but they have this shoot out where I don't know if it's in Texas or where it is, but they invited some of the best shooters in America, and they had a trapper, a fake car going down the street, and they did you hear about that? Because
they take shots at trying to recreate.
Exactly. There's dummies in the car, and then so the best shots in the world are in America. They were able to hit them. And the crazy thing is, they tried to use this. Was it an Italian Caracano carbine, something like that? And so that's the thing. They don't have the right gun. So I think they have an advantage. But some of the guys did hit the dummy. Still doesn't explain anything. No. But the shot is possible from that window in the building. And
well, the shot's possible. I think it's the the 3 shots in 6 seconds.
Yeah.
But, and when there's, without getting too much in, because there's a million things you can talk about with it. But a guy has planned such a big deal of going to kill a president, but leaves shell casings on the floor, and the social, sorry, not social, the security, Secret Service leave windows open in buildings, which they would never do, and there's it's just so many different factors where you go, one guy possibly could have done it.
Mhm.
But I think with all the evidence and all the witnesses that have come forward or did come forward, but they weren't interviewed by the Warren Commission even.
Mhm.
A lot of them, a lot of people died mysteriously that said that they'd seen people behind the grassy knoll, gun smoke. The train guy that was in the train conductor building at the time, whatever, he came forward, and he also he died mysteriously in car crashes and all these things.
You know how they killed Jack Ruby?
Well, yeah, he ended up dying of cancer, didn't he?
Heart attack. But
Heart attack.
there's this thing called Prusic Acid, which is a very old poison. It's the byproduct of making Prussian blue ink. And this Prusic Acid is what it's 100 years old. They used it in between World War I and World War II. The Nazis and the communists in Germany used to kill each other with it. You can put it in a spray bottle, and if you get 1 drop on any mucous membrane, it takes the oxygen out of your blood. And what happens is, if the coroner is not looking for it, then he says it was a heart attack. And and this is old news. This is low-tech stuff. You can make it in your kitchen. and it's a known poison of the CIA. And so the autopsy, they must look for this stuff to find it. If they don't, they always say it was a heart attack.
Well, Ruby wanted to be removed from the prison he was in. He said on an interview, you take me to Washington, I'll tell you what happened. But he never got that chance. He ended up dying. There's just too many, I don't know, too many variables to say that it was just one person that sat there. But I suppose at the end of the day, we'll probably never know, because they're never going to come out.
We're going to have to do another podcast about that.
When the next book's finished, because that was part of, with Sam, that was also part of when I was thinking of storylines and thinking of, what to talk about and what to write about. I always thought, books that create a bit of controversy, I suppose you could say, they always become successful. Davinci Code is one, whether you believe the storyline or not. I've had arguments with some of my friends out here in regards to the Davinci Code, because but he says this, and I go, no, but have you actually read the book and understood what his theory is? Like, it's not saying there wasn't a God and there wasn't a Jesus and that. He's just saying that the Holy Grail wasn't a chalice. It's the Holy Grail is actually a bloodline descendants from Jesus. And I said, so it's just different to what the Bible is saying. Everyone has their views on it. I said, I'm not saying it's true. It's not. I said, because it's one of those things, again, I will never know. It's just what you want to believe in. I said, does it make sense? Yeah, it does make sense. He's not saying the religious side never happened. He's saying the religious side is true. But the bloodline is actually the Holy Grail, which I could make an argument for. It's not a cup. It's actually that, but it created a lot of, interest and a lot of division, which made it sell a lot of books to become the highest seller of all time. So hence, that's why I wanted, with priest, the part about the priests in the book, the JFK aspect, all these things I wanted to put in. So it did sort of make people talk about certain aspects within the book, and not be argumentative, but talk amongst each other and go, have you read this? Would you think that could have happened? Blah, blah. Well, yeah, it did, especially at that time. There was movies like Spotlight that had come out about the priests and things like that. So it was a good timing. It's just that by the time I finished my book, all of them had moved on. So it was just one of those things.
Cool. What is what is your inspiration or well of creativity?
my main inspiration, especially for this book, was to see how far I could take it. I've always had that mind where it ticks over, and I'm always thinking of different things to write or to do or to create. I've been in a few TV shows in Australia, acted, TV commercials, things like that. So it was more, okay, if you haven't made that by now, let's get behind the camera type thing. Let's portray something that we can get other people to put to film. And with this book, that's what I was saying before, the storyline was always in regard to what could come of it down the track besides just being a book. Like, what's commercially viable moving forward? What's the residual value for it? Can it be a series? Can it be a film? Can you get people ask you, okay, this would make a great Netflix series, whatever, with Harrison Carter. What are some of the other stories we can use with him? And that's why I wanted to do something where I get the chance to keep going with it further down the track.
Cool. Yeah. So tell us about your categories. You were #1 in script writing, #1 in
Christian Science, I think.
Christian Science and Christian thrillers and a bunch of Christian stuff.
There was a lot of I didn't know how Amazon in Australia obviously isn't as big as it is in America. It's not it's not something we sort of look at straight up. So if we go online to buy something, most people here we go on eBay. Amazon's there, but it's not. I suppose it's not. It isn't as big, I suppose, here as it is in America. So when Paul was saying it's what we do, put on Amazon, then obviously I started researching and realizing there's like 35, 40 million books on Amazon, and Jeff Bezos started reading more about it because here it wasn't as big. And Paul said to me, "Look, we get 10 categories. You pick 5. I'll pick 5." He said, "But 5 that I will pick will probably be a bit left of center of what you would probably pick." And I also had murder thriller, political thriller, religious thriller, all these ones where it ties into the storyline of the book. And Paul never told me what he chose. And then 4 or 5 days after it's released, I went on my author page and #1 in screenwriting, #1 in Christians, and I understood where he went with it. And it was a very smart move on his behalf to do what he did, because even though I didn't even know these categories existed, let alone ever chose them. So he saw Psalm being a religious a wording, so he went down that path. And people still have the right to read the description of the book before they buy it. So even though a lot of my friends are saying it's not a Christian book as such, I go, no, but there's still 100,000 people probably a day going on those sections, and they have the choice of which book they want to buy. So to place mine as at #1 in 3 or 4 of those categories was it was really warm to know that a lot of people this book sounds like something I want to read. So I think it was yesterday or the day before I checked, it was still #2 and 3 in all those categories. Which means
I'm looking at it right now. It's #1 in Christian Science in America, #2 in Christian Liberation, and #2 in Christian Sacraments. No, it's all right with the Christian thing. I mean, it starts out with well, I don't want to, but
I know what you mean.
Kind of religiously motivated, and and Paul has all those tools like I do to check out the categories, and it's pretty cool. And
well, I wouldn't have known about these. Like when he told me when he told me about the categories, like I just thought you placed it on Amazon. It was all new to me, all this. I had no idea. And he said, "Mate, we've got to pick 10. You picked 5." And I didn't even know there was actually the Christian category on the Amazon, because I didn't look. I just started looking straight, obviously, where murder, thrillers, and all those books will be placed. And he was like, someone told me that he was really good at what he did. I always got told you got to leave it to Paul. He knows how to not manipulate, I suppose you would say. He just knows how to place. He knows how the system works, and he did a great. I do it straight away with him again. Anyone that's looking to do their own book and put it on, I'd give Paul Brady a plug at Brady Consulting, and get them to.
I like Paul. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy, but he just he did it right. He sort of knew where the book was, because the book could obviously go over quite a few categories, but he
Yeah.
knew exactly where to place it.
Yeah, I'm seeing it right here. It's still 26,000 in all of the Kindle store. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, in all books.
Well, that's right. When you consider there's millions and millions on there, it's
Yeah. Do you have
you know,
Amazon.au?
yeah, we do. Yeah, so
Okay.
when I only wanted to launch it in America. My whole thing was an American story launched in America for the basis that, like I said, residual value of the book, trying to get a film or a TV series out of it with the storyline, characters, etc. So I was always just doing it in America. That was it. And I've had a lot of people, obviously a lot of my friends in Australia, come to me and say to me, where can I buy it in Australia? What can I do? I'm like, well, I didn't release it out here. I'm like, you can still buy it. You just go on the Australian Amazon.com.au site, and I think the only difference is it gets made in America and shipped over, so you pay extra for shipping.
Yeah, but for Kindle, it doesn't matter, right?
Nah, it doesn't worry me. I get the author copies cheaper, so it's all right. So it was okay for me. But I had a lot of people say, but you know what? I had majority of my friends all bought the book. They couldn't believe. I didn't tell him. No one knew I was even writing. So I'd always keep it down because I didn't want to put the pressure on myself or everyone going, when's the book coming out? When's your book coming out? A few people knew and they used to ask me. So I never told anybody else. So when I actually put it on Facebook and told everyone, look, this journey's been going for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, what? We didn't even know you were writing. And then that's amazing. And then, within that week, it had gone to #1 on all those categories and bestseller next to it. And people started noticing. And then sort of got a bit of life, a lot more life out here based on that.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, sometimes some of the professionals and experts out there say it's actually not a good idea to get your mom and everybody to buy the book, because then the algorithm is influenced by their shopping habits. And if your mom is, for example, into, cats, and the first people that buy your book are into cats, Amazon will start indexing your book to cats.
Yes.
Kind of. The algorithm's secret, but that's kind of how it works. So they say
weirdo nut jobs buy my book first, so
exactly.
So the murders and all those type of things would happen. Yeah.
There are so many savvy marketers out there, and they say the first thing you got to do is you build up your beta readers of really focused to your niche. Or hey, do you say niche or niche?
Niche. We're niche. Are you niche?
That's wrong. It's niche. It's niches.
Yeah. Yes. Well, see, and this is where I was talking about the language and the English with Karen. That's why I had to employ Karen to do what she did, and because I didn't our phones obviously being Apple, they ask what English do you want, and they have Australian English, England or American type English, because Australians talk obviously a lot different. We talk a lot faster. We talk, we cut off our sentences. We abbreviate a lot. We have a lot of a slang. Everything's slang terms out here. So that's why Karen, she was unbelievably great in doing what she did, because I couldn't do that because I don't know. So again, I'll have to go down that same path once the second book, because but your mum MOM, we're MUM, all the spelling is different.
Yeah, but sometimes you can never win, because I said niche for years and I never thought about it. And then, I don't know, a couple of years ago, a British guy said, it's not niche, it's niche. And I said, wait a minute, you're British. I thought they said niche. No. It's because it doesn't rhyme with riches. You can't say there's riches and niches. There's riches and niches.
Yes.
So,
but
somebody corrected me, and I said, what do you mean? And okay, I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Sorry. And now you say it niche.
Yeah, well, we get influenced a lot by the American language. So if something is big in the American language there, it forces its way, I suppose you could say, it imposes itself in the Australian language as well. Like, used to say buoy. So, the buoys that are in the water, bouncing up and down, and Americans say buoy. We just used to say boy. It's a boy.
Okay, buoy.
It's a boy.
Yeah, I think I said buoy. Yeah.
Yeah, so
you said buoy.
So, but now it's slowly starting to be, here we go, tie the boat to the buoy, whereas before all I ever heard growing up was boy.
It is so strange. I came to Germany in 1995, and there was almost no Halloween. And then somewhere around 99, 2000, some candy company said, okay, this year we're celebrating Halloween. And now Halloween's a big holiday, well, a big day in Germany. How is it in Australia?
It's the last probably 10 years, it's really taken off. Growing up with me, nobody did Halloween in Australia. You know, in the 80s and 70s, and even through a lot of the 90s, there was no Halloween. It was like,
Yeah.
it's an American thing. It's an American thing. That's all you ever heard.
Hmm.
Why are we doing this? We're Australian. We're not American. We don't celebrate it. In the last probably, my son's 9. So yeah, probably 7, 8 years, it's really taken off to the point now where houses in our street are all decorated with Halloween. You know,
Yeah, but how does that happen? You adopt American words and then you adopt Halloween overnight because of the candy
culture, yeah.
company? Or was it a grassroots thing?
It's just I think it's just the American influence. I think that's all.
Or is it advertising because of the social media thing?
I think Australians take on a lot what Americans take on.
Hmm.
You know, and that was with this book. What was one of the reasons why I went to America before Australia was, or released it there, was because my theory was always whatever is big or takes off in America normally does well here as well in Australia.
Is it true?
Australians, in part it is. Yeah. So if there's a really big movie in America, 9 times out of 10 it'll be popular here. If there's a popular book in America, take Davinci Code or whatever, they become big books out here. Because we read so much influence in media and advertising that here is based. One sec, sorry, I've just got to pop up on my computer. It is based or influenced by America. So that was part of my strategy in releasing in America. Was I always thought, besides the fact that I want to try and get deals with the book, obviously down the track. So if it was to become big over there, then you would hear anyway, because Australians follow a lot of the American culture and a lot of the way we do music, TV, movies. It's just influenced a bit. I think Halloween fell into that category as well, that it just eventually started building its way into Australian society, and now come Halloween, it's sort of everywhere now here.
Yeah, that's so strange. That one really stuck with me because in Germany, it was just like night and day. Okay, this year we're doing Halloween and boom, everybody did it. Where did that come from,
Yeah, and that's what happened here. Same thing here, just sort of overnight. But there was always a little bit. It wasn't ingrained in the culture here. It was just a little bit here and there. And then all of a sudden, it was just bang, like now, like I said, Australia lives in a little cul-de-sac, and there's not a lot of houses. There's about 20 in this little street. Every house just about is decorated come Halloween, which it's good for the kids. I don't mind it. We didn't have it growing up. I didn't even know about it growing up. The only thing I knew about Halloween was the movie.
Yeah. So a strange thing happened here in Germany. They made 31st of October a holiday, a legal holiday now since 1 or 2 years. Martin Luther, something to do with Martin Luther. And so now I'm interested to see if the Germans co-opt it with Halloween and make it about Halloween. It'll be funny, but anyway, back to your book.
Yes, it's all right. It's okay.
Yeah. So so who's your favorite author?
Well, I don't just have one. There's probably a few that I really enjoy reading. Obviously, in the sort of genre that Sam was depicted in, I'd say Thomas Harris is one. Obviously Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, all those. I loved all those books. I loved all those films. I actually had a review, a lady, which I knew was coming. I didn't really want to read reviews because I didn't do it for that. It was never like, everyone always asked me how many have you sold. It's the first thing I get asked, how many you sold and how much money you made. What about the reviews? To me, it was never about that. It was just about, I wanted to tell my story, and because I had it and I thought people would like it. If anything comes of it, it does, and it got sold. One lady on her review just described, maybe in another book or two when Toby's, worked his craft out more perfectly, he'll be more like Thomas Harris. Until then I'll stick with Thomas Harris. And I'm like, but I'm not trying to be. That's Thomas Harris. That's his job. He's a writer. That's what he does for a living. He probably has people coming and doing this. I'm just a young bloke from Sydney, Australia, who had a good story and put it together. And I worked during the day. I've got my son to look after. I used to go in front of the computer for an hour or two. I wasn't trying to be Thomas Harris, but Thomas Harris is one. Dan Brown, I love all Dan Brown's books. I think they're put together brilliantly. Not just Davinci Code, but I've read all these other ones as well. Seeing how he sets it out, how it all pieces together. He does it. He's a master at doing that craft. And another guy called Ben Mesrich, who I love. He's written, a lot of these are based on true stories. It's like 21, Bringing Down the House, the crews that used to go to Las Vegas and manipulate the system. All these books. I think Ugly Americans is another one about a man that moves to Japan and works the system over there with the index, the stock exchanges.
Yeah.
And then all these other ones. I love Ben Mesrich's books. He's probably my favorite, but he's obviously a different genre, a different style of writing than the other two are more down my path with the murder mystery type thing. But Ben's books are, I love reading Ben's books. I just get caught up in them because they're real stories and he just tells them so great.
Which Ben?
Ben Mesrich.
Ben Mesrich. Mesrich or Mesrich? Yeah.
Mesrich.
I don't know. I haven't read him. I've just heard of him. If
you like those, there's a movie called 21.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
MIT. Well, that's based on his book. So he wrote the book 21, or Bringing Down the House. So those, those stories are all based off Ben's books. So the books are fantastic. I love the movies are good too, but they're the type of books that he does. You would know there's another one you know really well too. I can't think of it at the moment though.
Do you have a favorite book?
The one I've probably I've read the Davinci Code about 4 times. I must admit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's not just the religious side. I'm not highly religious, but so it's not the religious side.
It's a big book.
Yeah, it's a big book, but it's all the. Obviously, I read about Dan, how long it took him to do this book and the planning. And the plan for his book, I think he said, was 364 pages long, which is it's unbelievable. It's like another novel in itself. Just to plan this book, and he spent 5 years over in Europe, with another guy, and they were like, obviously, have you actually read the book? You read the Davinci Code?
No, nope.
It's very intricate, like all the streets, all the streets in Italy, and like he depicts them all perfect, like they're exactly how he does it. So obviously that would take so much time and effort to do. Obviously the research on with the Michelangelo, all the paintings, and the Last Supper painting, Da Vinci's, all these different things, and he how he pulls it apart and explains certain things. So while I was reading it, I was going back and looking, like going, okay, the Last Supper, and looking at the painting and what he's saying, and the male and the female and this and that. It was just very intriguing, and it just sort of opened up my eyes a bit. So I'd probably say that was probably my favorite book I've read.
4 times, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that goes to show you enjoy it. There's only one book I've read more, and that was mine when I was writing it, because I had to.
Yeah. But if his outline was over 300 pages, and it's kind of like about knowing your reader and your audience too, right? Because I just read a book from Lee Child, and he was going on about the East Coast of the United States and talking about the highways that that the people were driving on. And I didn't, after he mentioned it once was okay, but then he went into elaborate details about the highways and the numbers of the highways. And I thought, I don't really like that, actually. I guess I'm a lazy reader. But I guess with people that read stuff like the Davinci Code, or what is it called, historical fiction, they really want to visit the place,
Yeah, and you gotta be correct in what you're saying. And this is he did it great. He doesn't push it on you. It's just within the story, and so you can sort of, like, as you're reading, you can sort of picture yourself like where he's going, and it was masterfully done. Hence why it became so successful. But it was obviously successful based on the fact that it was so. There was a lot of stories about where he done it. And then he ended up getting sued by the people that wrote Holy Blood, Holy Grail as well. So
really, who sued him?
I don't know the author's names. I did read the book, ended up reading the book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which was released, I think, in 1980, early 80s. It was about, or mid 80s. And their theory was basically the same theory that he used. So their book was written a long time before Dan.
I've heard of that book, yeah.
And I read the story on these two people. And when they were researching Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which was the basis of Davinci Code, which was the story of the bloodline more than the chalice. And they said they were in Italy. And I was staying in hotels, and they said, we never told anyone we were there. We never told anyone why we were over there. We're just going around doing some research. And they would get notes under their doors at night telling them that they had to leave. They were getting watched. And they realised just how big really was behind the scenes as well. Like, you don't mess with religion. This is people's faith. This is people. You don't try and discredit it. You don't do anything. So move on, get out. Like, don't write this book. And he said they were getting death threats, so they ended up getting out for their own safety. Which
that
he
was
said,
Holy Blood, Holy Grail.
Holy Blood, Holy Grail, yeah. So that was the background story I was reading on the pickle. But so Dan ended up actually, I think, getting Dan Brown ended up getting sued. I think he lost the case actually. I think he lost the case for perjury. I think it was copyright issues, something like that. Yeah. So
interesting. That's very hard because, I mean, how many variations of a theme can you patent or copyright?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know how they do it. I don't know the basis of the outcome with the judge's ruling, but I know he did lose the case, and I'm pretty sure it was to the people that wrote Holy Blood, Holy Grail. I think there was one or two people that sued him. I think there was another one called the Templar Revelations that may have another book that I read about the Knights Templars that also may have influenced his storyline. So I'll actually have to research that before next time.
Yeah, but that's a pain in the you research a book, your outline is over 300 pages, and then if you're successful, you're going to get sued. It's just ridiculous,
I think he made that much money off that book, though. It might have been just a drop in the ocean that he had to.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope for him.
The guy, Henry Ford, one of the inventors of automobiles, he got sued by somebody who said, I invented the automobile before you. And he had a drawing. And so they might have changed this law, but it used to be the first person to draw it and file the patent was the inventor. And I think now it's the first person to make it. Yeah. And but Henry Ford got sued by a guy, and he almost lost in court 100 years ago, except the guy that sued him, his engine was a 2-stroke engine, and Henry Ford's engine was a 4-stroke, and that saved Henry Ford. And basically, he was the first victim of a troll because the other guy just had the drawing in his drawer, never did anything with it, never did anything, but just waited for the right time to sue somebody, Well,
so that's going to happen. It was like the guy I think that invented, I think there's a movie about it. I've never watched it, but I always wanted to watch it, about the guy that invented the windshield wipers on cars. And there's a Hollywood movie about it actually, and he sold it. I don't know if it was to Toyota or Ford, whoever it was, and they just took the idea, and he was like, "Well, no, this is my idea that I gave you." And I think it cost him his marriage and everything. I think he ends up winning. I think in the end he ends up winning. That they admit that they stole his idea. The wipers on the windshield.
Yeah, well. That's another rabbit hole. Back to your book.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. I think I know the answer to this, but what would you do different if you had to do it all over again?
Yeah, it would be, I think like I said before, I definitely, the planning, knowing now what I know, going through all the process, basically, I would do everything different. But I have everything set out now. I have the people I know who I can trust, where to go, what to do. For the writing side of it, I would definitely be planning a lot better. As I said, that story would just came to me, and I know it sounds weird, and people would, after they'd read, especially if there are other authors, if they would read it and they liked it, they go, "How did he piece that together like that, like without any plan?" And it was just one of those things that.
Yeah.
It just happened. I just knew what I was writing. I knew the whole story in the back of my head. It was just how to do it, how to bring it out to life. And now I don't have those. The only other book that I've ever had that I wanted to do was oh, I shouldn't say this, but it's like a coffee table book, and it's this was actually the first book idea I ever had before Sam came, and it's a coffee book about if you could have 10 people for dinner at a table, any people ever in the world that have ever lived, who would the 10 people be that you would have as your at your dinner party? And what I wanted to do was get, like Obama, and I suppose you could say, all the stars, like all these people that are obviously influential, and ask them who would they want and why would they want those people. They're like, would you want Hitler and Jesus sitting at the same table? But you know what I mean? Like, have all these people, JFK and Jack Ruby, or all the people in the history of the world that have lived. Who would you want for dinner? Like, why would you want them there? What would be the theory of having them?
That sounds like a good series.
Well, it was just, I thought because of, those big coffee table type books, I thought, if you had that, but obviously getting access to people, it would be hard, So it was easier to write this book than probably trying to get access to people for that book. So hence why I didn't do it. But that's something I've always wanted to do. That's a big coffee table book that I've always wanted to do, would be that, the ultimate dinner party, and just like, who would you invite? But obviously with all the stars, like, who would you want there, and why would you want them there?
Well, that was my next question, actually. If you could eat dinner with anybody, past, present, or future, who would it be?
I think you know what I'm going to say here. So it'd be JFK.
Ah, yeah, definitely. I was kind of guessing that. Cool.
It's just been so I don't know what it is. It's just that whole story, that whole enigma of JFK has just always been. It's just always been. It's always grabbed me. It just always has been. So I didn't know the man. I'm not into American politics as such and all that, but it's just been one of those things where I'd love to invite him and talk to him. And
what's the first thing you would ask him about Maryland?
The first thing I would ask him, does he believe he was? Oh no, well, if he's alive, I couldn't, could I? I was going to say, do you believe that you were murdered by the CIA or your own government? I don't know. I wouldn't know. I'd have to long, hard think about it. Maryland, Maryland could get it right. I'd probably get a list of questions I wouldn't be able to ask him. So
it's a private party,
Yeah, if it's just him and I, kicking back, chewing the fat, having a few drinks, then well, I don't drink, but that'd be he'd be the person I'd ask.
Yeah. Well, do you know what was his favorite drink? Was it whiskey or something like that?
I don't know. Yeah, I know he likes cigars.
Yeah, you get him a good cigar. Then
I watched an episode once of a what's it called? Was it Porn Stars, where someone sold the JFK cigar box? That's the JFK cigar box.
Wow. How much did they get for that?
Oh, it was a lot. It was actually quite a bit.
Yeah,
it was quite a bit. Yeah, it was quite. I still had cigars in there. It was actually quite a lot. It was from the White House, so it was man, his father had it for 30 years or something. So
what are you building your email list?
Not as such.
Oh my!
I'm trying. I know. Look, there's a lot of parts of the, I suppose, the book and the mind that I'm still learning about. I suppose you could say.
But your book is number 26,000 in Amazon. You have to get your readers on your email list or to your website, because your book is going down slowly. Hopefully not. But this is the golden opportunity to collect subscribers like crazy,
I have to I've just started, because of my work and everything else. So with the book, I let it run at first, but now I'm understanding the marketing side of what to do. So I've been in contact with Facebook, Instagram, Amazon to start marketing again with it. But also, I know the social media side's massive. Certain people get influenced by what certain people read on their social media.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like where I'm heading at now, especially in Australia. It's hard for me for America because I'm not based there. So I do have some friends over there who I suppose I've reached out to, and I'm hoping to get the book in certain people's hands. Because I know if someone's got $5-6 million, 5 or 6 million followers, and they're seen reading a certain book, and they may say, "Unbelievable story this," and you get 1% of those people buying the book. That's a lot of tape.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of heading that way a lot. I'm sort of heading down that path, trying to work the social media side as we speak. Actually, that's been all this week. That's what I've been working on.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, because that's my number one tip for anybody. I mean, I find it mandatory, and because in the beginning, I was publishing a lot of stuff, and then by the time I figured out the email lists, then the books that I was publishing had already gone down, and then I lost the traffic. So, and your book is so high in getting all the traffic right now. You can do anything. You could put a link just to a wait list if you don't have anything to offer them, or just a link to your whatever, to your profile. But the best
these are things. A lot of these things. A lot of this I never knew about. So when you talk about things you would do differently, next time, one of the questions you asked me before. Yeah. These are things that I have planned out before I would release the next book.
What's really cool is I learned this from one of my favorite authors and marketers, Dave Chesson. I've interviewed him twice on my blog, and he has this method called the Kobayashi Maru method. It's like the that Star Trek thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's better described as an Easter egg method. You put a link in the book, and you don't say what it is. It's just you hyperlink one of the words in your story, and that leads to a cool little like mini story PDF that you make for them that they can only get with email and email sign up. And that one's pretty cool. I've used that one. And but then you have to make the PDF mini story or something like that, And
it's just been that's what I'm saying. Like all this, it was so new to me. All these different. And I've had people come in and say, have you done this or do that? And I'm like, I didn't even know about it. Like I just wrote the book and released it. And then it's after the fact I'm learning a lot of these well, the different variables of marketing and what you can do to help the book along, which I never knew. And so in future, for future reference for myself, like I would have everything planned out and set. On Monday we do this, on Tuesday this is going out, press release on Thursday, etc. Like Paul, introduced us. So I had, we had all these people emailing me in regards to getting interviews. And so without Paul, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So it's just been one of those. It has been a big learning curve, I suppose you could say, for me, as on the other side of the book. So not just the writing side, but you've written the book now, but how are you going to promote it? How are you going to look after it? Once it starts, those first initial weeks, it's gone gangbusters. Yeah, it's gone great. But now with, I think there's 10,000 a day getting loaded on Amazon. What do you, how do you keep it relevant? And so to me, the only thing I knew of was social media. So hence I'm starting to reach out, especially to a lot of people in Australia, because I knew I had traction in America, but a lot of people in Australia, hopefully a few things lined up in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, let me know if you need help, because I really love the email marketing thing, because one of the reasons it's so important is that you get a one-to-one conversation with your audience and your readers.
Yep.
And then somebody did a study about that, how an email subscriber is worth about 100,000 Facebook followers. And I think it was Brian Harris of Video Fruit. He did a really cool, and he showed the graphs and everything, and how he sold the book or something. And it was a big difference between Facebook.
I'm sure it made a huge difference. And like I said, all this stuff for me is like it's raw. It's stuff I've never done before, stuff I never knew about. Like how to do it. So I'd only that you brought that up. I'd only sort of started looking into that at the start of the week, actually. started getting pulled my
Okay,
finger out.
so my number one tip, my homework for you is mailerlite.com. That's probably the best platform for, well, new
I'm just
authors.
trying. What was it? Sorry, I missed it.
MailerLite, but they spell it like the Australians, Lite. Mailerlite.com.
Lite.
Yeah. Mailer, like Mailer, and then light, Lite.com.
Yep.
And free account, you get 1,000 subscribers for free, and you can make a landing page, and they're definitely my favorite. I recommend them to all authors, new, old, whatever, and easiest to use, and they have the best functionality, and it's pretty amazing what you get for free from those guys. And so
Definitely. All right. Well, that's my homework for this afternoon when I get home from work.
Yeah, it's a good shortcut, because I've been through all of them, the paid well, not all of them, because some of the paid platforms are very expensive, but I've been through a lot of them, and MailerLite is really good, and it's intuitive. You can actually use it.
I'll definitely have a look.
Okay, let's do a blitz round.
Okay.
What's in your pockets right now?
I'll tell you what I've got. I've got my AirPods. So that's what I had. That's what I had in my pocket.
Okay.
That's all I've got. That's all I got in them, actually.
All right. What do you have, a morning routine?
Yeah, I do. Every morning before work, I like to get the newspaper. So I get up, I get dressed, I go to work, I get the newspaper. I like to sit down. I like to have my breakfast and read the newspaper. That's something that I've always done. I've just always done it. I read the sports section, then I go to the front, read all the other stuff.
I like that. It's nice and old fashioned, because everybody's into this mindfulness meditation stuff. If I meditate in the morning, I fall back asleep, Yeah,
no. Well, I used to go surfing or do things like that, but now that I'm older and the injury in the body isn't how it was, it's a lot different. But I like every morning, if I haven't read the paper before lunchtime, or if I haven't had my cup of tea or my toast or whatever it is that I'm having, I feel lost. I feel naked. Of like, what's going on? It's just something I always do. I've always done it for a long time. Yeah, not far. Yeah,
cool.
Not far. Yeah.
So when's the last time you went surfing?
It'd probably be 9 months ago. I went surfing because I have bad legs. I get injuries all the time, so it's not that I don't want to. It's just the pain I got to go through afterwards. So, but look, swim down there all the time. We're always down there. It's not.
That's cool. Yeah.
Always down there. Just not always.
I went surfing last time was 25 years ago. I moved to Germany from California, so how you miss it when you move away. So get back to the beach, man.
No, I think that's my happy place, going to the beach. That's everyone has a happy place. I know all my friends are all the same. All my mates are surfing. We all grew up together down there. I think we all go away, but we all come back, and that's our happy place.
Cool. Yeah. What's the number one surfboard brand there?
Oh, there's so many now. There used to be, like, growing up, there wasn't as many. There's so many now.
You got an O'Neill wetsuit?
Will Weber surfboards. Will's a friend of mine. He's one of the great shapers out here in Australia. Will Weber, his brother.
Cool.
Yeah, his brother Greg as well. The Weber boys, they go well. There's also Firewire. Oh, there's a heap. It's different than when we grew up.
Yeah.
There was like Aloha and a couple of others, but now there's boards everywhere. There's all different boards.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Yep. What? Cool. So what's on the horizon for you? Besides your next book, of course.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm really trying to push to get this book into the hands of the right people. That was my aim all the time with this story. I always believed in the story. Like Lynn, who I talked about before, when Lynn first read the book, my first manuscript of it, there was so many mistakes and it was so raw and it was ugly. And but she got back to me and she's like, you know what? As much as hard as it is to read right now, and like I filter through all the mistakes, she goes, the story is phenomenal. She goes, I love the story, and and that's what I always said to her, and I suppose to anyone that sort of asked me about it, was I always believed in the story. Like the story would make a great film or a series or whatever, and that's how I was always visualizing down the track that residual value for the book. So I'm just at the moment, I'm just still working on obviously promoting book, the story, working on getting it to the right people, which is my main aim at the moment. I'm lucky to have a few contacts here in Australia that have contacts to get it to certain people, which I'm trying to do. I'm sending the book out to a lot of. I know it's a long shot in that, but I'm sending the book out to a lot of producers and filmmakers and that over in Hollywood as well. Which I know 9 times out of 10, no one's going to. That probably gets put to the side or not read, but you only need it to land in that one hand that someone looks at it and goes, "This has got something. This is something we can work with." You get that one call. So if you don't do it, you'll never know. And so I'm really working hard with that at the moment to push that side of it to try and get it to people. I just don't want to sit back and go, "Oh, my book's on there now. That's it." I'm working on trying to get it to the right.
Another. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, see where we can go with it.
Yeah. Another good one is a BookBub. Have you heard about them?
No. I'm glad I'm on here now. I'm writing all these down as you talk.
Well, let me tell you, BookBub is kind of the holy grail for self-published authors.
B-U-B?
B-U-B, book, B-U-B.
Yep.
And you can do ads on them now. And there's a really, really, really good book from David Gaugren, How to Do BookBub Ads, something like that. Maybe I'll send you the link. So that wasn't the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail was getting a BookBub promotion, which is when they send your book to their email list, and you can put any book up to almost #1 in almost any category you want when you get that. And that's why they're so expensive now too. And it's not easy to get a BookBub. But anyways, that was probably the next goal or milestone for you, is to get a BookBub and do BookBub ads and Amazon ads. If you're not doing Amazon ads, I mean, you could do those tonight. Have you done those yet?
I've done a marketing strategy with Amazon where people click on the link for it. It's like an open, how much you spend. So I've already done that. I haven't seen it pop up yet, but I do look. And then, but all that, but that's what I was saying, like this week, that's what I have already started to look at based on that I knew, all right, now the first 2 weeks is over. Book's been launched. Now we've got to try and keep it relevant. And this is where now I've this week actually started to do all that type of research and looking into all those things. Plus I've also got now MailerLite and BookBub, so I'll be looking at those as well.
Yeah.
But cool. Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, all those I've been looking at now as we speak to try and keep the book placed as high as I can, I suppose you could say. Keep it relevant. Well,
Toby, our hour is up. Can you believe it?
It's gone long. It's gone quick. It's been great actually talking to you. It's been fantastic. Yeah. I really appreciate the time.
So where can we reach you online?
Just at Toby Dow at y7mail.com. You can reach me on there. I'm setting up a Psalm blog. As I'm getting someone to do it for me actually, as we're doing. I'm getting it all set up for Psalm, but also be an author page, more an author page. But obviously, because Psalm's the only book at the moment, that's all getting set up. So once that's set up, I'll let you know once it's done. But like I said, like all these things I didn't know of. I didn't know to do before. Before I'd released the book, I had no idea about all this. So obviously before the next book comes out, all this would be done, so people would click on. Which if the next book's a hit, obviously they click on the other one, which would be Psalm, the first one, and they go, "Oh, I didn't see that one." As well. So hopefully it'll all be it'll all be done and it'll all be good. Everything will go forward.
Yeah. I think Amazon ads is your first.
I hope next time I'm talking to you, we're talking about the film.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
That'll be the main thing for me. That'd be great.
Definitively. Yeah, I think Amazon ads would be the next quick win, or the first quick win for you. But let me know when your next book comes out, and we'll do another podcast.
Yes, mate. Hopefully it's not in 10 years. That's all I know. That's
you got to set a date, right? You got to push yourself.
Yeah, that's right. I would hope within 2 years, 18 months, 2 years. Hopefully it'll be completed. That would be my. Well, I'd love to have it done beforehand, but I don't want to put that 1 year roll on. So I'd rather say, hopefully 18 months at the most. I would hope. Because now I run my own business, so by the time I get home, to sit down and I can't do. People go, "Why don't you just go on the computer?" And I go, because can't just, I've got to be in that mood, that zone to write. And I can't do like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of writing because I feel it's not productive. I don't get anything done. I'd rather sit down for a good block of 3 or 4 hours and get a good block of writing done. So then I know that, you know, I've created something in that time. I don't want to just write 2 sentences and go, oh, okay, that'll do me. You know, I'm not like that type of person. I've got to sit down and really put effort in and do it. And as you know, it takes a long time to do, you know, unless you, hence, hopefully this time will be a lot quicker because the fact that, as we've discussed earlier, you know, I will have a plan. I have everything set out, the chapters, the characters, everything done before I sit down and do, which will make it a lot easier. Whereas, you know, with this one, I didn't. It just came to me. It was weird, but it just how it worked out.
Cool. Well, I look forward to seeing you again.
Mate, I appreciate the time. I really do. It's been great talking with you. It's been a fun interview. Actually, it's been very good, and I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'll see you next time.
Thanks, mate. Thanks a lot.